Well, hello everyone and welcome to round number 2 of this, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. We are here live from Silverstone, the home of British motorsports. My name is Connery Maddock. I'm joined by the ever wonderful Jake Sperry and Joe Peak. We had an absolutely fantastic opening round at Hockenheim just 1 week ago, but the train continues on. We are here in the UK for round 2 of competition. Last week was fantastic, Jake, but that has just set the stage now for an amazing season.
It absolutely has, and you talk about big moments that happen in races. They are defined by very small actions, and this track today will prove that. Silverstone and the international layout that they'll be going out today is going to be about positioning, placement, and picking the moment to make your move. It's not going to be as simple as you make the move and you're going to have it sorted. There is always an opportunity to fight back for position.
Yeah, there really is, and well, close racing is definitely on the cards. It's a fast and furious lap here at the Silverstone International layout. Not really a well-used layout here, both in the real world and, of course, in iRacing as well. So that's going to be an interesting predicament for our drivers coming into today. And of course, we've gotten our first set of points logged onto the board as well here, Joe, which, you know, of course, we're going to be paying more attention really to the top 5 cut spot, top 15, excuse me, cut spot, rather than the actual championship lead. You can see them on your screen now.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the concern. There's no extra rewards up there for finishing up the lead other than keeping yourself safe. Now, obviously, that's where you want to be, but you look at guys like Bico and Marciano who are tied there on that 15th and 16th spot. They really need to make sure that they maximize everything they can. Bobby Zielinski as well, only 2 up from there. Gustavo gets a nice little jump, so he's a little bit safer. But again, the higher you are, the better. But you just got to be worried about that number 15.
Yeah, of course, the points that you're seeing there are their difference to the cut line, basically. So Lesser back with a fantastic performance in round number 1, of course, at the very top of the order at the moment. And Joe, we are here at the Silverstone International layout. I did mention it was a bit fast and frenetic, but just take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not the full GP course. They're going to cut across after they go through a village and the loop. So it's that little right-hand hairpin after the start-finish line and then a left kink instead of another left hairpin. From there, it cuts across onto the hangar straight. It joins in just as you exit Chapel. It's still going to be a nice long run, so you're going to see guys really focus on that exit. But Stowe is much of a braking marker, as a heavy braking zone as it is. It offers lots of chances to cut back and fight into Vale, so I don't know how many passes will actually be attempted into there since it leaves you so open. The laps are just over a minute, so this classic track of British motorsport is going to keep us on our toes and the drivers on their toes as well.
Yeah, it certainly is looking to deliver here, Jake. We saw quite a bit of close racing in the rounds that we saw, or rather races that we saw at Hockenheim, but at the same time, you really did have to work for those passes there at that circuit. Do you think that's going to be any different here today, given this particular layout?
I don't think there's going to be much of a difference. I think it's going to be once again through the sprint race and the main race, difficult racing that they are going to have to deal with. Qualifying once again is going to prove paramount as we start with our qualifying. They have 8 minutes to set a time. They only get 1 flying lap to put it together, so it is pretty much the toughest challenge that you can have as a qualifying effort. Sprint race will be 11 laps long. The top 8 will be inverted for the main race, which is double the distance, 22 laps, double the distance, double the point. And this is going to be a very important challenge for drivers today. And there's the driver who took so much of an amazing performance, Connery, out of Hockenheim. This is Jeppe Giassi.
Yeah, Giassi, we all saw it, at least here in the commentary booth. If you were watching last week as well, you saw how emotional Giassi got once he came across the line. He didn't even do the cool-down lap, he just chucked it off the circuit and just started crying at his rig. Well, you could, that was just a huge moment for him, because he's definitely no stranger to, Porsche series action here on iRacing. Of course, he has been a competitor in that top series, the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup, but he never found, at least a race win in that particular series. So to see him finally get one in the bag, Joe, I think the emotion was definitely very well deserved.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though, is that you can only celebrate for so long, and then you got to get off to the next round. And so he's got to recollect himself. And it looks like he's got pretty good control here because he used just about the right amount coming off into that chapel exit. That's going to be one to watch out for track limits out here today that could potentially give drivers slowdowns. And as well, coming off the final corner of Club here, let's see if this one actually counts for him, because remember, if he does go outside the track limits, it's automatic that it'll get deleted.
Yeah, of course, and well, heading his way across the line at the moment, you're starting to see the times come through. Currently, it is Christopher Dambietz that's currently on that provisional pole position. We're seeing Ascari Rina that head his way through and across the line. And, well, we'll have to see how the front of the order stacks up here, because it doesn't seem that Lasse Bach has been able to put himself on pole position like he did in the last round. He's down in 12th place. Alessandro Bico across the line, 15th in the order here at the moment. So we're seeing a little bit of a shaken up grid here, Jake, which is very interesting to see as Caruso goes to pole.
Well, if I told you that 3rd to 13th is split by 1/10 of a second, it shows you just how close this qualifying is. Jordan Caruso has found a wonderful lap in the number 12, has absolutely put together a wonderful display of qualifying effort. But there are teams out there who have done really well. Team Redline have turned up today. They're 2nd, they're 3rd, they're 5th. This is going to be a great race for them. They're going to be right up at the pointy end, scoring those important points. And it goes to show you, any given week with this series, any given week is your chance to shine.
It is, and the big surprise here, Joe, is Lasse Bach not getting himself pole position. He got himself, way further down the order than we're used to seeing him. He was set the fastest time in practice, but it seems like he wasn't able to convert it here in this qualifying session.
Yeah, and that's, I think, what amazes me about this qualifying format that they have elected to go with, is that single lap. That is immense pressure to perform, because you have to be right on the edge to get the most of it, especially at the level that we heard Jake talking about. The differences between so many positions is just fractions of a second. So you can't back off of it, but at the same time, you can't go over the edge. You're going to pay a very dear price. So you have to figure out the balance of where you want to put the car. How far do you push before you feel like you've gone too far? And right now, one of our Australian drivers, Jordan Caruso, just getting a little bit more practice in after his one qualifying lap. I kind of don't blame him. And he'll probably want to use as much as he can, because he'll have to play a bit of defense, especially on the slipstream of that long hanger straight.
Yeah, he absolutely will. We're just watching the end of the pole position setting lap for Jordan Caruso, the driver from Melbourne, Australia, part of Altus Esports. They will be very, very happy with that particular performance in the qualifying session. Sets Caruso up very well for a fantastic sprint race. But let's have a look at the schedule then. We've gotten our round at Hockenheimring done last week. We're here at Silverstone Circuit, the international layout to be exact. And then next week, on the 8th of October, we'll be heading to Austria. We'll be heading to the Red Bull Ring national layouts, and that one's going to be an even quicker lap time than what we're seeing here at Silverstone. That's going to be 18 laps of a sprint race there, which is going to tick by very, very quickly. Then we go to Watkins Glen, then we head back to Europe to the Nürburgring, and then we have our finale at Imola, and it's the only Grand Prix length track that we have on the schedule here, Jake.
Yeah, and I think that's really telling, actually, that you put the full-length circuit at the end of the championship. It puts a lot more emphasis on the track. It puts a lot more emphasis around what that track means, how you have to challenge it. And right at the end of the season, I'm really looking forward to seeing how Imola goes. But Imola is 5 weeks away right now. The focus is right here, right now, Silverstone International, and the key is going to be this. For those who haven't qualified well, they're going to have to maximize that run out of the loop through turn 4, down the hill at turn 5, and getting that run on the hanger straight. That is the most critical corner, and if you can mastermind that over the course of the qualifying effort that you have here today into the sprint race, that is where most of the moves, I believe, are going to be made. Might not be secure by the time they get to Stowe, But that's what you've got the Vale and Club Corners for, and that's what makes the second half of this lap overtake Central.
All things that we're going to be keeping a close eye on as we head into our sprint race. But it has been a very exciting week for iRacing, a new step forwards, at least for the company. As well, Joe, you have more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. They just released the World of Outlaws game, the Dirt Race, World of Outlaws Dirt Racing on Xbox One, on Xbox Series XS, and PS4 and PS5 out there. So it's a really cool console game that they've just put out. And honestly, one thing that I love that iRacing has done is they've drawn me into dirt racing, because I didn't really follow it when I was younger. And when I got exposed to it through iRacing, it is some of the most fun. And this really captures it in this game.
Yeah, I remember when dirt racing on iRacing at least first came out, and I thought, you know, I thought I wasn't going to like it, you know, especially as a European that's not exposed to that sort of racing, but it is incredibly fun. And to see the console game come out as well with the World of Outlaws, it just allows iRacing to, you know, expand into sort of new markets with the technology that they've been able to develop over the last couple of years. So it's absolutely fantastic to see, and to have console players get that opportunity to experience here. But let's have a look then at our drivers that are going to be taking part here today. Here they all are, just waiting for that timer in qualifying to tick down and away. Of course, the vast majority of them had finished their laps in the first half of the session, but they do need to wait just that little bit longer to get themselves onto the starting grid for our heat race, comprising of 14 laps, of course, and as ever in these Porsche series will be a standing start, and it's very tricky to do in these cars in particular. But let's take a look at that starting grid then coming out of the qualifying session. It is Jordan Caruso on pole position with Christopher Dambietz in P2. Gianni Vecchio will start in P3 with Matti Sieppela in P4. Jeffrey Giassi in P5 with Kevin Nielsen in P6. Quentin Violat in P7 with Gustavo Ariel in P8. And then we have the driver of Valentin Mondenac in P9 with Peter Berryman starting in 10th. Thomas Tattela in P11 with Oscar Bixrud in P12. Lasse Bach will start from P13 here today. Outro Melgar in P14 with Bryn Collins in 15th. Biko will start in 16th with Mangan, and the driver of Sonnen in P18. Further down the field, you have Oscar Irina on the inside of row 10, we've got Simone Maria Marciano on the outside of row 10. And Andre Melker is there in on the inside of row 11 with Matthias Jensen alongside him. Josh Thompson, David Williams further down the order here as well. A couple of other drivers towards the very back of the starting grid: Victor Miranda, Luka Kita, and we have Chiski there, and Zelensky, Niesov, Chadwick, Yarshel, Bouchard and Kaitet will round out the 33 starters here today. Everyone was able to get themselves a qualifying time in, so no stragglers and out of position drivers towards the very back of the starting grid here today. There they are all lined up and ready and raring to go here at Silverstone. We are racing for round number 2 of the Contender series. Jordan Caruso trying to hold on to that race lead as they head their way through turn number 1 for the first time, but it seems like Christopher Dambietz has gotten himself a run of speed onto the brakes into Village for the first time. It's such a wide and inviting corner, and Dambietz has been able to get himself up into the race lead. Vecchio is struggling for P2 as well. He's getting himself towards the inside. There seems to be a little bit of shenanigans going on at the very back of the order there as they hit the hanger straight for the first time. And oh no, I think Jordan Caruso's gotten himself a slowdown penalty.
And that's going to be a disaster because he's got to serve that on the opening couple of laps. He has no reference time to serve and slow, so he's got to really back off of it, and it drops him way down the order. In fact, at this point in time, he finds himself right back in the mid-pack. Not ideal, but this is a crucial start as they've gone through 3 wide. They're going to lunge in towards the Vale and Club corners, and right now Dattala finds himself with a sandwich as he goes through. Great starts up near the front. Kevin Nielsen had a great start moving forward. He's up into 4th position, but it is Christopher Dambietz who leads this one outright.
It was an amazing move from Dattala, though, in towards the Vale, got himself to the inside 3 wide, and certainly showing that he has no problems about getting aggressive here in the early stages of the sprint race. Dan Beats leads by a second already at the end of lap number 1. He's just trying to run for the hills, and it's Redline second place as well, as Vecchio gets himself a good start as well. Siepeler in third place for the moment, as you see that big long string of cars down the hangar straight into Stowe.
Yeah, they are all eager to try and take advantage of this one run that's going to give them a little bit of slipstream. And it's absolute traffic jam into Stowe. That is Melgar round the outside, who is unfortunately going to get shoved off a little bit. Bryn Collins to his outside as they now exit towards Vale. And it's going to continue on through Club Corner with a nice switchback. The 13 is going to get that 15 spot.
Indeed, and well, we're seeing Melgar and Jensen get themselves wheel to wheel coming through and across the line once again. These laps are just ticking by oh so quickly. We're already on lap number 3 of 14 here in this sprint race. Remember, the results from this race with the top 8 reversed will be the starting grid for the main event a little bit later on. Side by side, I think that was Luca Kita and the Urano Esports cars that was having a little bit of a look there on Julian Sunan. We're riding on board with Kita here, Jake.
We are, and Luca's got to be looking both in front and behind him. He finds himself right now in an R8G sandwich because it's Andre Makias who is there just behind, trying to figure out a move. He'll look on that inside, and there goes the move. Makias has the door shut. Had to get on the brakes. Racing room given by the man from Duisburg. And at this point in time, Luca Kita is trying everything to hold on to position. And it's about making places early here in the sprint race for him, because he is down the order right now. He's made 7 so far. He wants to make more to get up for the main race.
Yeah, wants to continue to press forward, although the same could be said with pretty much everyone here in this mid-pack train. It just goes to show how close and competitive that this series is. There's Sunan and Kita once again. REG versus Urano, if we're saying it in the French way. Marceno and Niesov are also battling behind this little grouping here as well. Marceno, of course, from Altus Esports, same team as Jordan Caruso, who started this race in pole position, but of course we saw Caruso backslide through the field and is now down in P12 as Alexi, well, you see in the background lots of fighting there down the hangar straight. I think that was Niesov trying to pull off a move as Sonan's preoccupied with the Urano car behind him.
Yeah, I think a little bit of Zelensky is well in there trying to fight with Nesov. So as they... Deep down to the inside. That was a little too deep. That's Zelensky actually taking to the runoff. And we talked about the slowdown penalties from earlier. He's going to experience one of those right here. And just one of those mistakes, you're going to see drivers not just drop one, but multiple positions pretty much every time.
And that's so heads up as well, because you have to remember there's the anti-cut curb, the sausage curb on the inside. If he'd been caught over the top of that, he would have been launching himself up over that section of time. He did well to not only avoid that, but heads up driving from the other drivers there to give the room to allow Bobby Zelensky to run to the inside.
Yet more squabbling for position, though. David Williams getting himself involved in all of this. Of course, having had that off-track escapade down at the Vale, looking to try and press forward and recover a couple of positions. But Rena's on the back of him now. The Kova car looking to go the long way around at Stowe. We've seen moves like this done before, at least in previous races. But Rena careful not to run out of roads there. He is given the racing room. He gets to the inside for the Vale, which is... perhaps paradoxically, perhaps not where you want to be to make a pass into there, because you still could be trapped on the outside. Coming through Club, but there's contact. Rena's around. David Williams keeps going, although is slow coming out of the final corner.
And I tell you what, Manigan in the 99 was on top of that. He saw that unfolding and placed his car perfectly. Basically was out of the way as soon as they started running into one another, and picked up both spots.
Yeah, great opportunistic driving, and it continues here on the live pictures as well. Bobby Zelensky once again in a big scrap, this time with Josh Thompson, trying to look down his insides back there. As, did they barge doors coming off the corner? I think they did. You got to be careful with the slowdown penalty coming out of there in that cut through to the hangar straight. Well, someone should have told Caruso there on the first lap, but you see Victor Miranda, the third party in this particular battle. Wheel to wheel through Stowe they go. Zelensky's going to lose out on that one very narrowly, however. He might have a line down in towards the Vale, looks towards the outside. 2 by 2 they go towards the back end of the lap, and Zelensky gets turned by Miranda, pointing in the wrong direction as you see the replay of the previous incident in the bottom right.
And the issue is that they're squabbling for essentially space, and there just wasn't any. Rene being on the outside, nowhere to go, and that's trouble. Trouble's back there, but this train for second position right now, Vecchio is going to be the best friend of Christopher Danbeats, I think, today, because once again, for the second straight race in this Contender series, he's having to play second fiddle. He's got Matti Sipilä trying to figure out a way through in the Kova car, and I think Sipilä knows he wants a chance. Kevin Nielsen having a great race after a disastrous showing in the opening week at Hockenheim. He's certainly looking in the Fire Sim Sports car like he wants to get back into racing condition and move up forward inside the top 15. He's definitely someone to keep an eye out on, but this is an incredible train right now, and right on the back of it in position number 8 is Duomos Datala, up 3 places and in the transfer spot in 8th.
And guys, we got to remember that we've now had 3 different incidents down into club. That's been Calamity Corner. If I was one of the other drivers around here, I'd be watching out more carefully into there, because it seems like people are just a little too eager into there, and it's causing problems.
It does seem to be the case. It's been the main action points that we've seen over the course of the race so far, and it looks to continue on. We're having a look at this battle for second place between the red line machine of Vecchio and Matti Sipilä in the Kova Esports machine. Now, around the outside at Stowe, battle for second place on your screen. Sipilä, oh, there was a little bit of contact there through the middle of the apex between the two. This might give the opportunity to Nielsen down in towards the Vale. Looks to the outside, not quite going to find the line through there, but it's all about the exit. Try and see if we can get the inside in towards club, but of course that option not available currently to the driver of the number 3 as we cross the line. 6 laps here to go in the sprint race at Silverstone, and it's continuing to heat up.
Oh, it absolutely is. This race for second position is pretty much everything, and they all know that they can't afford to step too far out of line, because the moment that one driver steps out of line, everyone else just jumps at the opportunity. This is Kevin Nielsen here as he looks to try and really make a run and push forward. He knows what he needs to do to get this result sorted. He knows that this is an all-important moment, that if he just stays calm in the situation, he's got a really good chance. And I'm sure the driver from Sulista is going to give himself a really good opportunity. Even the windscreen wipers are going right now as he figures out, okay, what is the best opportunity I've got? He's going to leave a little bit of a gap here, because if the front 2 drivers, Connery, come together, then he's got the time to react, to give him that room, that maneuver, that overtake.
And the guys ahead of him have definitely shown in this race that they're not not afraid, to lock horns together. So maybe just sitting behind and seeing what happens here at the front of the train might be the best course of action for the Fire Sim Sports number 3 car. We'll just have to see what happens with Vecchio and Sipilä. Let's see who gets the run through the cut through and onto the hangar straight. Sipilä gets some good drive off, although Vecchio did his utmost to try and make sure that this move doesn't happen on the way down in towards Stowe Corner. Look at the defensive line being taken by Gianni into the corner. He's always afraid of Sipilä getting to the inside there, as we see the replay on the bottom of your screen, just getting bullied out of roads there, coming out of club corner into a 3-wide situation in towards Abbey. But on the live pictures at least, Vecchio is pulling off all the defensive lines he can think of.
He really is, but if I'm Matty, remember, he's trying to score his way back into the championship, into the big show here. So him sitting in 3rd is great for him. He finished 24th last time out, so he's had to re-qualify in, and he's gotten this far. If I'm him, I'd say, you know what, as long as I'm not under pressure from Kevin behind, I really don't have to take this position and risk it, because with how aggressive Gianni is, I wouldn't want to lose many points here in the sprint.
Yeah, that replay, by the way, we just saw previously was Lesseback getting bullied out a road and falling further down the order. Meanwhile, further back in the pack, we're on board with Gustavo Ariel at the moment, who is recovering. Jordan Caruso breathing down his neck at the moment, down the hangar straight. To the outside goes Caruso. Well, he showed some great performance in clear air in the qualifying session, but can he pull off these passes when it's asked of him? He's trying his best. Look at Ariel not knowing where to go, Caruso not knowing where to go, and they all get themselves on the brakes quite comfortably down in towards the Vale, but that almost became a pretty sketchy situation, the unpredictability of it.
And on top of that, Bryn Collins ran into the back of Caruso through that section of track. So that really put a lot of troubles into play. Alessandro Bico has now found his way through in terms of that move. So Bryn Collins has been shuffled back to 14th position, but Ariel did not move, and Caruso was trying to feign going to the inside by saying, I'm going to go to the outside. No, I'm not. I'm going to stay right on the inside. Ariel did not buy that, and as such, they stay as they are at the moment. Ariel had a horrible start to this race. He bogged down off of the start line. Caruso, of course, we saw have the slowdown penalty on the opening lap. With 3 laps to go, Caruso can only hope for this one position more to move into 11th. The gap to Oscar Bixrud is 3 seconds from these drivers as the main pack for second on back continues their race.
Indeed they do. It's all lonely at the front of the field for Dambeats, let me tell you that. He's almost got 4 seconds on the rest of the field. Of course, that comes out of his pace, but also by the amount of defending that Vecchio has had to do over the past couple of laps. And of course, if you're taking defensive lines, you're by definition not taking the optimal line in terms of the lap time. So Vecchio, all hope for the race win is completely lost, and you would have to say he was lost a couple of laps ago. He just needs to try and hold on to second place now to give himself a little bit more of a buffer in terms of points in the championship, to get himself just that little bit further above that cut line, and to not put the pressure onto those final couple of rounds.
Yeah, and right now this is the track that you want to try and defend on, because we've seen how successful it can be. And I wouldn't say it's an easy time for Gianni, but he knows that he can hold them up. Otherwise, if it's a case where you're just costing yourself time, sometimes you don't want to fight that hard and just focus on your own race pace. Try to solidify results, like you said, instead of wasting optimal lap time out there. But man, it's been a stellar job from the 70 up to now.
And keep an eye as well here, coming on to the final lap, Connery, on Peter Berryman in 9th position, because he is on the back of Duomos Datala, back there in that position behind the 2 R8G cars and the Kova car. He is someone who absolutely will make that move on the final lap if it gets him to that transfer.
Very few opportunities now for Matti Sipilä to try and get this pass done, to get himself 1 step higher on the podium here in the sprint race. Onto the hangar straight for the final time. Sipilä not as close in this instance as he has been before, so it will be a bit of a struggle from this far back. Vecchio not feeling the need to go defensive this time in towards Stowe Corner, but Sipilä gains time on him through the middle of the corner. To your race leader though, Christopher Dambeats, after a fantastic start from the front row, beating out Caruso. It helps that Caruso got the slowdown penalty as well. It's Christopher Dambeats that comes across the line for Team Redline to take the sprint race win here at Silverstone. It is Vecchio at second place, Sipilä third, and a gaggle of cars behind.
That's just some incredible racing there, and some tough racing. We didn't really see the overtake in that front group, second, third, fourth on back. That was an incredible battle that we had. And Connery, it just goes to show you that placement is everything when it comes to how you race around this track.
Indeed it is. Well, let's have a look at your unofficial race results then from the sprint race. It's Christopher Dambeats by 4.3 seconds back to his teammate. It was a Redline 1-2 here today in the sprint race. They'll be very happy about that. It's the Kova car of Sipilä that takes third. Kevin Nielsen in fourth with Efediasi in P5. Vialat in P6 with Mandanar in P7. Datala in P8 with Peter Berryman and Oscar Bixrud rounding out the top 10 finishers. So that was an incredibly exciting sprint race here at Silverstone. We have a little bit of time before we get ourselves into that feature race, of course, here, Joe. Just time to settle the nerves a little bit more.
Yeah, it sounds like we'll take a quick break here, and we'll be back with more awesome racing here in the Contender Series.
Dirt Racing will be available September 27th. Pre-order your copy today.
Well, everyone, welcome back to the Porsche Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. We're preparing for a main race here, but we do get to speak to one of our drivers. Jake, you're standing by with Dan Beats.
I am. Christopher Danbeats then is going to be here with me. He is here with me right now. Christopher, that is about as plain sailing as it could have possibly gone. Got the overtake done at turn 3, and then from there, it looked like it was plain sailing. No one was going to catch you.
Yeah, first of all, I'm very happy to secure the win, and yeah, I think that the start was the way to go to overtake Jordan. There was quite a good start what I had to go side by side, and in turn 1 with the cold tires, I think he had no chance to really keep against it, and in the end, car was perfect. So thanks for all the work from the guys on the car, and was the perfect race. We can say it like this.
A perfect race. So P8 it will be for you to start then in the main race. So good luck to you, Christopher. We'll get you back into final practices right now. Connery, I tell you what, I can't wait. We've got an amazing amount of battling, an amazing amount of racing to come along. It's 28 laps. They've got double the time, and we saw just how in 14 laps, just how incredibly aggressive they were. I can't wait.
Yeah, I certainly am. I'm rubbing my hands together for this next race, because if it's anything like we saw in that sprint race, then I think we're about to see something special with these drivers. They are just about getting themselves onto the starting grid now. Remember, there's a top 8 reverse grid based on the results of the sprint race to set the grid for this main event of 28 laps. It will, of course, mean that we have Thomas Dattila on pole position with Mondenark in P2, with Violat in P3, with Yassi in P4, and then you've got Kevin Nielsen, Matti Siepela, Gianni Vecchio, and Christopher Dambeach rounding out the top 8 starters. Everyone else is as they finished in that sprint race. You can see them cycling all the way through there, so it might be that those battles, those insane battles that we saw in the mid-pack in the sprint race, continue on as a bit of a part 2 here in the feature event. I certainly cannot wait for it. We're getting towards the very back of the starting grid now. We see Zelensky bringing up the order. He had a few trials and tribulations in that sprint race, but it can potentially be recovered here in the main event at Silverstone for the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. We're off once again at Silverstone. It's a good start from Efe Hiassi, though, on towards turn number 1. He gets himself into P3, single filed out, at least for the top 4 cars. It's a main battle between Siepela and Nielsen, heading their way down in towards Abbey for the first time. A bit of snap oversteer in the middle of the corner for Siepela causes him to wash up the circuit, as we had a couple of cars off in the background.
I think Yarshell involved in that here, Jake. I didn't see who else.
I didn't see what happened in the back. I was keeping so much focus on Matti Siepela and Gianni Vecchio coming together. Siepela now has a slowdown penalty, so he'll fall back. But it is Dattila, Mondenar, and then Giassi, your top 3. It was a horrible start from Conton Violat.
It was. It just bogged down as... I saw in the background there, potentially. Well, it is Berryman actually falling down the order. I think he got bullied out of room a little bit on the way in towards Stowe Corner. Lots of action here on the lap 1, and continuing action on your screens as well, as they're stacked up 2 by 2, at least on the exit of the Vale. Heading their way through Club Corner now, finally single filed out, at least for the vast majority of the field, as we complete lap number 1 of a 28-lap event. This is the battle for P13 at the moment between Yesov, Kita, Siepela and Marciano, all in very close quarters indeed, and in active fighting as well as, it seems to be a huge wreck there through the first sector. There was a couple of big shunts all in that one, and it's actually continuing on, by the way. Oh, that's a big mess.
As Nesov on his lid, unfortunately, Zelensky involved in a bit again. I think maybe he took off the track just to avoid everything. So yeah, a lot of drivers, unfortunately, are going to be basically day over because of that. We've got a replay, it sounds like, from the start.
Yep, and we'll probably have to remember a replay of that one as well. There it is in the bottom right-hand side of your screen through turn number 1. It was a big issue for Kaitet, it seems. Spun around in the wrong direction. Couple more involved in that first lap incident as well. And then just a lap later, we had that huge moment involving Niesov getting himself hanging like a cow, I believe. It was Hulkenberg that said, Jake.
Yeah, no, that's not ideal in terms of the way you go through at turn 3. So a massive moment for a number of drivers in the midfield, and the biggest casualty out of that was the championship leader coming into today in Laissez Black. He got caught up in that incident, so he's in a world of trouble. But speaking of what's been going on at the front of the field, it is the race for 3rd and 4th, which I think is the interesting one. Giassi and Violat, which is going on, but it's still the mid-pack where it's continuing on around Oscar Irina right now, because you've got William Chadwick there, Arturo Melgar's thinking about what's going on. You've got everyone just trying to keep their head on a swivel because everyone is everywhere, and going backwards is Andre Makias.
Yeah, he ran out a little bit too wide, and as a result has had to deal with a slowdown penalty, as there's a few absolute sends going on down in towards the Vale at the moment. You can see get a sense of the desperation of the couple of these drivers that are a little bit further back in the order where they perhaps expect to be. Josh Thompson on the inside in towards Abbey, involved in a battle with Melgar. We got Zelensky, we got Yashal in that one as well. Yashal, he almost lost the car, almost loses it again as he dips 2 tyres out into the grass. And these just rage on through the first couple of corners here. Here's the replay of the big incident that we saw through turn number 1, at least on that second lap of things.
Yeah, that was Nezov, as I mentioned earlier, that you saw go up on his lid because of that, and just all carrying on down there. It's interesting seeing Thompson and Zelensky really get their elbows out, because both at a disadvantaged situation, so they've basically got nothing to lose. They had poor results at the last one, or at least Zelensky did, and Thompson had a spin at the start of this one, so it's all just do or die for them.
Yeah, it seems to be the case. A lot of casualties, at least so far here in the main race. We have a couple of drivers 1 lap down or more. Someone's still out there, to be said. Go on.
Just in the back of shot there, coming along the front stretch, the Sir Lewis Hamilton stretch there. 2 cars then finding themselves in trouble and off the road. So a big issue out there. Peter Berryman, though, still having to deal with it, getting all over the grass then, trying to carry as much speed as possible. That allows number 12 to try and find a pass. This is Jordan Caruso looking to get back up now into 10th position, with Berryman having made that move. And of course, Peter Berryman has some help behind in the form of Matthias Stockbake Jensen.
Car number 12, that started 12th, at least in this particular race, getting himself up to 11th here at the moment as we have a look at these guys head their way through Club Corner. And, let's see if Berryman is able to hold on to this one. Caruso has shown that he has the pace, but of course maybe not the best of luck here in these races so far. So let's see if that luck starts to turn and he can continue to press forward and gain positions and those crucial points as well, to make sure that he books his slot in the next season of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup here on iRacing. It's fantastic to see these fights develop and these storylines start to flow as well here, Joe. It could have been so much of a better day for Jordan.
Yeah, it looks like we got a replay of the incident on the front stretch that we heard Jake talking about. Someone just getting edged a little bit wide and unfortunately bouncing off of one another. That eventually kind of ping-ponged into one of them winding up all the way into the tire barriers. Now, if these drivers, Connery, are getting as into it as we are, they need to worry about calming down for the rest of this race, because remember, this is the feature format, and yes, it's not super long, but the rear tires get a workout at this place. The harder they're racing one another, the more they're going to use up their stuff. I say keep just a little in reserve for the end of the race here.
Of course, there is the tyre wear in these cars that factor into things. Yes, it's not the longest of races. However, with these cars being driven as hard as they are, and with the tyres being as sensitive to heat cycles as they are, if you take a little bit too much out of them, Jake, it can really bite you in the last couple of laps of the race. It's the drivers just trying to work on keeping those tyres in good condition. It's not even necessarily the wear that's the massive problem. It is the heat.
And I'd say track conditions are completely ideal for what they're looking at to race today. So they're in a really nice operating window. They don't have to worry too much about that. They just have to worry about the way they are driving around this circuit. Tim Yarshall, for example, who was in that accident that we saw the replay of, he found himself now with very overheated tyres. It's going to take 3 laps at least for those to cool down after the effort that's gone through there. You look at Jefe Giassi, for example, who's in 3rd position, looking at Valentin Mondenac here, the young 16-year-old. You've got Quentin Vialat just behind, the other RHE car. His focus is very simple. I just want to stay in lane, make sure that I'm hitting all my marks properly, and if an opportunity presents itself, I'll go and I'll try and make the move. It's a little bit more spread out than it was in the sprint race that we had earlier on, mainly because they know there's a bit more time, there's a bit more thought on conserving the tyres. And maybe for Valentin Mondenac in 2nd position here, Connery, he's allowed Dattler out to that 1.7, 1.8 second margin because he's going to try and make sure those tyres are good in the second half of the race.
All part of the plan. We can actually have a little bit of a chat with one of our drivers that has unfortunately retired from this main event. We're standing by here with Phil Bouchard. Phil, all things considered, it's not been the ideal day for you here today. Just take me through it.
No, as you said, lots of crashes, lots of incidents. This is pretty much what happens when you start at the back. We all want to get some positions quickly. And things happens and crash happens. So I was unlucky today.
How are you looking to try and recover from this one? Because it's a situation that no driver wants to be in. Having a retirement this early on in the season. Are you looking to try and push hard in the next couple of rounds to recover from that?
Yeah, for sure. I think mainly my problem right now is qualifying. So starting at the back, most of the time things like this happens more when you start at the end of the tail. So I'm going to try to just sort out my qualifying and try to get to the top positions at least to try and get some better starts.
Yeah, well, thank you very much for joining us here today. Unfortunately, it wasn't the day that you get yourself a boatload of points, but here's hoping for the next couple of rounds.
All right, see you guys.
That was Phil Bouchard there. Unfortunately, going to be our last classified finisher here in the main race, Jake. A big shame.
Well, last classified driver and will not take a finish in this race, in fact, so definitely not ideal in the circumstances there. Middle of the pack continues to be an interesting foray and adventure. Jordan Caruso right now has a very interesting mix of drivers that is with. Of course, you've got the two Apex cars, which are there of Berryman and Jensen forward and behind. But just in front of that is the driver who came into this race today, Connery, on the proverbial bubble, the Williams Esports driver, Alessandro Bico. I think it's going to be really interesting, up into 9th position, a gain of 4 so far in this race, making good progress. There is great help, though, behind Jordan Caruso, and it's his teammate, Simone Maria Marcheno, up 9 spots so far in this race, and eyes firmly set on the train in front.
Drivers working their way through the field. This is what main races tend to be about here, not only in the Porsche Esports, Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series, but in the big leagues as well once they get to the main Super Cup. We see it time and time again. The best drivers are ones that can effectively work their way through the field in the longer races. Matthias Jensen, we're riding on board with him at the moment, driver from Denmark, not the only driver from Denmark here in this series either. Lasse Bak also from that Nordic country, and well, Bak hasn't had a particularly fantastic day, at least the one that we expect to see him in, but Jensen continuing to press on and getting himself at least further inside the top 15 in this race, which is all you really need to do to try and qualify yourself into the Super Cup for next season. You need those consistent top 15 finishes to get yourself the top 15 in points.
Exactly. I mean, sounds simple, right? So just got to execute from there on out. Giassi's been executing so far this season. You think about the first race in Hockenheim, and then being able to take that maiden win, looking at another podium here potentially as he sits in third. But he's got some pretty good pressure from Vialat there in the 81. So he's going to have to pull out from the same bag of tricks that he used back there in Germany.
Yeah, indeed he has. And, like you said, you hit the nail on the head there, Joe. We've already seen Giassi's defensive prowess so far, and Vialat going up against that is going to be no mean feat whatsoever. But it is a battle for third place, and a lot of points associated with that here, Jake. So for these drivers, podium finishes are so valuable due to how top-heavy the points are in this series. If you get a couple of podium finishes throughout the season, then you're pretty much safe, right?
Pretty much. And I've just been keeping an eye out on Conton Vialat and the way he goes. Look, he's got so much lean on his head when he's going into the corners, and he doesn't have the G-forces that he's simulating as he's going around and he's taking these laps here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup Contender Series. But what he does have is he's trying to replicate. He's trying to almost, turn his head through the corner to say, come on, that's where I want the car to go, and trying to push the car through by that understanding. He's getting really close to the back of Giassi and the Team Redline car, but the R8G Esports driver knows he wants to try and get that place, and he is leaning into every corner, trying to pretty much open up every opportunity.
Wait, Jake, you're telling me that doesn't make you faster? Have I been doing this wrong?
It might do, it might not. I do fall foul of the same principle myself when I go out there. I do lean into the corners myself. I wish it would make you faster. It's one of the things where some drivers do it, some drivers don't.
Oh, we're looking back at Jordan Caruso's continuing little scrap here with Peter Berryburn. It's been going on for a good couple of laps at this stage, and Caruso still hasn't been able to work his way through. He's in a little bit of an Apex Racing team. I wouldn't say sandwich because, well, you don't call a sandwich based off of what's on the outside, do you? So it's an Apex Racing team bread sandwich with an Altus Esports filling.
All right, important topics here on iRacing today. Caruso, though, very much having to deal with a lot. That's always difficult when you got the teammates right here, especially in sim racing, because in sim racing, you can be in a lot more contact with your teammates. It's not like the real world where they're just talking to the wall out there. These guys are probably making sure that, they can kind of let each other know what's going on, what they're experiencing, maybe coordinate something so that if Berryman thinks, oh, you know what, maybe I'll back up this apex a little bit and Caruso will be a little slow off the corner. That'll give Nielsen a chance to try to go on the attack. Nothing, shady or anything, but just setting him up and letting him know, here's your opportunity. Let's go for it.
Well, we've got another Altus Esports car involved in this battle as well. That's in the former Marciano. So it's Apex from Altus here, at least in this particular battle. So we'll have to see how this one folds itself through. 14 to go here at the moment. That's basically the halfway point of this race here in the feature event at Silverstone International Layouts. You can see the drivers laser focused on the task at hand. No opportunities developing at this stage. Everyone just running in their own little bit of space. Caruso, a lot of commitment there, at least in towards Village that time around, but he can't quite get this exit done through the cut through onto the hangar straight. It's so crucial that you absolutely nail that exit every single time.
It is. It's the most vital corner because it leads to the most important overtaking opportunity out on track. So if you get that corner correct, it sets you in good stead, not just for this corner here at Stowe, but through the Vale and then the corners of Club. It's pretty much a case of one corner dictates five, and it's not often that you get that at a circuit as they go forward and through. Now, I just caught out in the back of my eye Bryn Collins having a huge slide in the background, and he has just lost this position to Oscar Mangan, the number 99 Altus Esports driver. So a very important move there. Bryn Collins, youngest driver in the field, and having a small mistake in that, enough to cost a place.
Indeed, and well, all in flux here, at least in the mid-pack, as we ride on board with Oscar Mangan in the number 99 machine. Like I said, Bryn Collins in behind here for the moment. Sunan not too far away, so could have something to say about this one as well. Mangan getting himself a very good exit onto the hangar straights, completely cancels out any potential move that Bryn Collins would have put on him down in towards Stowe corner. And just a little bit of a nervous entry into Stowe there for Mangan. You saw the slight correction on the steering wheel in the bottom right-hand side of your screen, and it's just that little bit of lost time, maybe a tenth to Bryn Collins that could be crucial.
Yeah, and Collins has already made that mistake, so has had to basically regroup and get back into this mentally, on top of having Sunan back there in that 40 car applying some very big pressure. We hop on board with Bryn coming down into that first corner here into Abbey, which has switched back to the right-hand side in the past 10 years and still incredibly fast. In fact, that opening sequence is going to be so tough on the tires, just scrubbing off and adding so much heat to them over the course of the race.
And with everyone running as close as they are, it's basically a repeat of Hockenheim here. Those mistakes can become a much bigger issue. Of course, we just saw it with Bryn Collins. We potentially might have just seen it with Oscar Mangan, but he was able to gather it up as we see a little bit of side-by-side action going on further up the field. This is Effidiasi holding on, attempting to hold on to this from Quinton Vialat. Vialat off the road a little bit, slides up in front as we see Kevin Nielsen go for the 2-for-1 special through the back end of the lap. Shades of Lewis Hamilton.
Well, Nielsen was fantastic there, Jake. Just set that up beautifully.
Well, the incredible thing is that Giassi didn't want to give that one up. He moves over to the inside, doesn't want to give up the position, but nor does Vialat either. He'd been waiting half the race, essentially, to try and make that move, so he's not going to give up either. And effectively, Giassi had to leave the room, otherwise it was going to be an accident. And Kevin Nielsen just looks at it like, well, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. I mean, look at his reaction right now. This is exactly what I was expecting. I'm P3 in car number 3 for iRacing Sport. This is exactly where I should be.
Well, if you wanted to draw parallels from real-life racing in a certain top series to sim racing, I think there it was. Someone play those clips side by side, please, and post it on Twitter. But with Kevin Nielsen looking back at those two drivers, he was able to pull off the pass coming out of the Vale and into Club. A fantastic, opportunistic move from the iRacing Sports driver. That was, well, already, I think, contender for move of the season, right?
It would be on my list, that's for sure. And that's the thing, that it also displayed Kevin's patience in that situation. Waited all race, and as soon as it happened, pounced on it. That's what you got to do. You can't force these issues. You got to wait for the right opening and have that discretion. There's definitely something that comes with experience in both real and sim racing, just reading situations and knowing when is a good moment to go.
And you can already see Jake Nielsen pulling away from the two of them as well. So this has really worked out in his favor as we ride on board with Vecchio now. Due to all of that, well, he's going to be a little bit hard done by, considering that he was involved in that fight. But yeah, let's see what happens with Vecchio in that number 70 car. Or rather, he wasn't involved. He gained a whole bunch out of that fight. I will correct myself there. As battling Caruso and it's not Berryman, excuse me. It's the other Apex car. It's Jensen with a little bit of a fight into the Vale, but it's just caused Caruso to lose the position to his teammate instead of Simone Marciano.
Now they run flying formation now, 12th, 13th, 14th, the Altus cars. So Mangan, Caruso, Simona Maria Marciano, they're all going to have work. Matthias Stoppbait Jensen making the move and making it happen. And just in front of that on that last lap, Alessandro Bico lost the place to Peter Berryman. So that's very important. There is Simone as he will look to try and continue on his charge forward through the field. Up a very nice 10 into double digits for his overtaking right now. And I would like to point out as well that the battle for the race lead, or the race for the race lead, is closing. Valentin Mandanat is taking a 10.5 every single lap, so keep an eye on that as the race continues to go forward to the final stages of this one. Simone wants 11 places in this main.
Indeed he does. He is one of the hard chargers that has really shone here in this main event, and there's definitely maybe a position or two more that he can get by the time this race is done. Started P22, believe it or not. That is a fantastic run here in the main event and clawing all those points back. Of course, it wasn't the most fantastic qualifying from Marciano. He started in 20th in that race and actually slid back a couple of positions into P22, but the main race has treated him a lot better than the sprint race. We've got 8 to go here in this race, and you did mention that gap at the front is coming down there, Jake, but is it going to be enough by the time the checkered flag falls?
Well, that is the important question. There is Duomas Datala, who's leading this race, but he is starting to struggle a little bit on his tyres compared to Valentin Mondana, who has done very, very well to close that gap, keep it within 2 seconds, and now that gap under 1.5 seconds. There is a little bit of traffic in front of Datala, and it's his Kova teammate, Matti Sipila, who is there out in front. So that's going to be a cause of concern, maybe more, I would say, for Mondana in terms of this race. But for Mondana, he's doing a great job. The gap's down to 1.4.
It surely can't be that warm in Finland at the moment as we head into the autumn. You see Datala just sweating. That is all perhaps due to the focus that he's putting on trying to keep the lap times up to make sure that gap doesn't collapse back to Mandanakjo.
Absolutely, and we got to remember that this COVID team's a little bit on the newer side, but it is all Finnish on that team specifically. So they very much rally together. In fact, that community is pretty well known for being so tight-knit here in sim racing. So I wouldn't doubt that there was already plenty of knowledge and stuff being swapped before they all came together and have been able to build up what is looking like potentially a win. As we take a look at Manadot right now, sitting in second. And is that lap traffic in front of them?
Well, that's currently is not. Well, actually, we've got Sipula potentially going to be falling back into this one. He isn't between them just yet, but Sipula, remember, Jake, is a teammate, part of that Cover outfit, which is the same as Thomas Dattler. Of course, we're not suggesting anything untoward might be on the cards here, but sometimes things can be convenient.
They sometimes can, and I wouldn't like to think that it would be what we see in terms of this race, but this is going to be a very, very important race right now, as that is going to be Matthias Stoppbait Jensen making the pass then on Alessandro Bico, who has started to go backwards. Now watch the Altus cars work together out on track. They're going to go to the inside and make sure they will essentially freight train out the Williams Esports Italian. Drew's going to try Simone here, trying to make this pass happen. It's going to get dicey and close, and somehow it's held as they go forward. Bico's going to try and fight it back, going in towards that next section. But that just opens Caruso up on the inside, and as Caruso opens it up, thank you very much, says Oscar Mangan. That is teamwork extreme.
Indeed it is. There's not much that Williams Esports car of Bico could have done about the absolute armada of Altus Esports cars trying to head their way down his insides there. It must be so frustrating when that happens, but that's the risk when you're caught offline coming down into some of these corners. It's just that freight train that's going to try and come through on you, and it's all about damage limitation from that point forward, trying to find a space where you're able to slot back in. And, well, in the case of Bico, it was behind all of those Altus Esports cars. Julian Sonnen, well, we're riding on board with him at the moment in that number 40 car as he chases down Christopher Dambeats. This is further down the order, well, he is behind in that particular train that we were just watching with the Altus Esports cars putting on a bit of a choo-choo train.
Yeah, and this is a bit disappointing to see, but Dambeats, obviously a different picture when he's stuck back in the field instead of leading away like that. Remember, he was re-grid in 8th and unfortunately has lost 8 spots since then. So down to this 16th position and really has not been able to make any inroads in recent times. Suonen very much on his tail.
Well, we've got news, and you can see it on the top left-hand side of your screen. The gap for the race lead is teasing in and around that second mark now. Vandenark continuing to push the issue, continuing to press on. He sees a race lead or a potential race win in these final, well, basically 3.5 laps at this point. But again, you know, he has the benefit of getting the tail end of the slipstream now, which will give him a little bit of a benefit. But the slipstream in these cars isn't the most potent of things, especially compared to other categories, Jake.
It's not, which means that it's going to have to require some racecraft here to get this one done from Mondenar. But Mondenar, over the last 10 laps, has either done a 103.6 or a 103.5. There has been no discrepancy. He has been uber consistent with the way he has gone about this to get it back. And it's now 0.888 when they cross the line. 888 trying to chase that down, but number 46, a very famous number when it comes to motorsport, will now try and get past the 97 Finn of Duomos Dattler, and Dattler right now is just wishing to see that checkered flag come across the line. He has got to hold on.
Yeah, well, Finns like to say and like to seem like they're ice cold, but I think the sweat doesn't lie here in this situation, Joe. Dattler is certainly working very hard at the wheel, trying to make sure that Vandenark has no opportunity to get himself up into the race lead. But before the checkered flag drops, we're going to come up across the line with 2 to go at this point. Vandenark again, well, still below a second here on the final 2 laps. There's battling going on behind as well. The Altus versus Williams battle has not finished whatsoever. This time it's Jensen trying to defend from a hard charge in Marciano and Caruso as well.
They are, and basically this is 1 versus 3 right now. Matthias has had all of them attempting to try and go by. Credit to him, he's held them back up to this point. He's a little offline coming down into Village, unfortunately, but manages it well under braking into there. There's a variety of lines in these first few corners, which always frustrated me because I can never tell if I'm getting the best out of it. And then onto the Hangar Straight once again. The one I'm kind of surprised that I haven't seen doing better in this race is Caruso, because he has a karting background, we have to remember, in the real world. And that's a style of racing that requires you to be very close up on road racing, fighting hard with your almost literal elbows out with your competitors.
Towards the end of the penultimate lap then here. White flag will drop in just a couple of moments' time. There we go. There's the confirmation of it. There is the battle, or rather, a bit of a rift between the race leader and second place at the moment. Dattler has done his best to try and stabilize out this gap. I think in this situation, once we get to the end of this one, Jake, Mondenack would be hoping for a couple more laps if Dattler is able to hold on.
Mondenack's done amazingly to bring this back, and he is the sort of driver at just 16 who could very easily be the next Sebastian Job. That much is market, but Dattler looked really nervous with about 4 or 5 laps to go, and he's got to just convert these final couple of corners, and he is there, because this has been a real struggle late. He had to build the gap early and hold, and that is a tough, tall order.
The driver from Kova Esports from Finland, it's Tuomas Dattila that heads his way up towards Club Corner for the final time. It was a reverse grid pole position that's converted into a reverse grid race win here in the main event of the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. Dattila, a rare show of emotion from a Finnish driver, I think, coming towards the line there. He's got himself a good amount of points to try and take with him into the championship and get himself a slot, as there's more battles going on behind, coming towards the checkered flag. There's Josh Thompson versus Sam Kite across the line. They had a little bit of a disagreement. Zelensky falling down the order in the dying moments as well. I wonder what went on there. But another fantastic race we've had here at the Silverstone International Circuit, as we have our now Bose post-race show to be getting on with, as actually might take a look at the finishing results here in a couple of moments here as well. A fantastic race, especially as things got maybe a tiny bit too close for comfort at the very front of the field, with Mondenack reeling in that gap for the race lead. But it is Tuomas Dattila that takes the race win here, with Mondenack in P2, with Nielsen on the podium as well, with potentially move of the season already coming out of the Vale. Violat in 4th place, with Vecchio in P5, with Yassi coming home in P6. Berryman P7. He had a fantastic time in this main race as well, working his way through the field. Oscar Biskrud in P8, with Ariel in P9, and Jensen rounds out the top 10 here, Jake.
Absolutely, and I tell you what, we've seen some incredible work go through, some incredible races up and down the order. The wall of Altus that's there, 11th, 12th and 13th, I think is one of the most amazing things. And Christopher Dambeats having a real struggle to 16th. That's something that I think is really going to showcase in the later stages of this race. The likes of Lesse back as well. He'll want to put this one under the sofa and say, nope, didn't quite like that. And then all the way down to the bottom, the likes of Tim Yarshall, who found himself in a bit of trouble. Some drivers who didn't get the results they wanted. Arturo Melgar, I think, will be a bit disappointed with 26th position out there. He's definitely someone who had the potential out there today. But I do believe we're going to get the chance to talk with Tuomas Dattila, a race winner overall in what was an incredible display of driving by him, and how he had to manage the gap early and put himself into a position where he had to build up what was an incredible resume out there. But quite honestly, Connery, it's just incredible up and down the order.
Yeah, it was, and if we continue on this theme throughout the rest of the season, I would be one very happy commentator indeed. But we do have Tuomas Dattila as the race winner here. Jake, take it away.
Tuomas, it's no secret that you had yourself a incredible race. You got yourself the gap early, but talk about Valentin just trying to bring it back to you there. You really had to hang on for the final 5-6 laps.
Yeah, I really thought I had it already. For some reason, I guess maybe it's a setup issue, or maybe I was just pushing too hard. But I just didn't have grip anymore, and yeah, I guess only half a second at the end. I expected it to be much easier, but yeah, nice to at least finish first.
A victory here, and important for you, seeing as you found yourself relegated last season and now fighting your way back through the Contender series. How crucial is it, seeing this new crop of drivers coming up and the talent that they have looking to push into the Supercup, that someone like you goes out there and looks to perform at a high standard to prove just how strong the standards are to reach that sort of level?
Yeah, it's nice to see. I don't think I should have dropped down. I just screwed the season up, really. I'm much stronger as a driver, and especially mentally now. And yeah, it seems to be working. But yeah, it's gonna be like every season. It's just harder and harder to beat people. So yeah, nice to see that I seem to have some pace at least.
Well, you had more than some pace. You had enough to win this race. Go and celebrate, my friend. That is an important race victory for you. Tuomas Datala Kova getting that one absolutely magnificently sorted there for position number 1. That will lead us, though, towards position number 2. And Valentin Mandanag, who joins us now. Valentin, that was about patience for you, trying to build that gap. At what point through the race did you go from looking behind you at the likes of Jeffe and Conton to looking forward towards Tuomas?
From lap 14, I started to be faster than Tuomas, but I lost so much time at the beginning that it was almost not possible to catch. But yeah, the pace was there. I'm really happy with that. And yeah, we really keep pushing. And yeah, congrats to Tuomas for the win. He deserves it. Yeah.
An incredible display by you, though, to come back and try and get so close in terms of the result. But for you, it's a case now of building on that momentum. What's the focus for you like in the R8 team moving on 1 week's time from now, looking at what's coming up when it comes to the Red Bull Ring?
No, we know that we have the pace. We are lacking a little bit of pace in quali, but the race is there. So now we really keep pushing because there is Julian and Andre. We need to keep pushing for them. But yeah, just need to keep pushing. That's it.
Just need to keep pushing and pushing. You shall. Valentin Mandanar joining us there, second position overall, with a really, really great fight back, very nearly reaching the top with Tuomas Datala, and that will lead us towards P3 overall then in this one, and that is Kevin Nielsen, who joins us right now. Kevin, really important race for you, all about patience, just like what happened with Valentin in this one, but you have to talk about what happened between Jeffe, what happened between Conton, and what happened with yourself. That looked like an amazing bit of patience to make that move.
Yeah, it was quite exciting. I saw that they were fighting, and of course they were side by side in the last couple of corners, and I saw an opportunity on the inside, and I took it. So yeah, it was a great pass.
Was a great pass, was a great opportunity. And how important is it for you that you get this third place here in a way that sort of mirrored your qualifying series, how you struggled in the first race, but the 5 races afterwards really fell in your favor? Do you feel like this is almost a repeat performance, or is turning into that sort of repeat way your season's going right now, Kevin?
I mean, I hope so, because on the last races, of course, will be good, and I will secure a spot in PESC. But yeah, it was important to get these points today, as my race last week obviously was very bad, starting last and getting crashed out in race 1, and only making some points in the last race. So of course, yeah, they were really important, these points.
Very important points, and a great chance for you to rebound. Kevin Nielsen there joining us, third position overall. And Connery, there have been a lot of drivers who benefit and a lot of drivers who struggled here today. So the ups and downs of the points, I wonder how they look.
Well, we can get ourselves an update already, of course, pending further stewards review after the races that we had here at the Silverstone International layout. Well, championship lead has changed. Of course, Gianni Vecchio getting himself up into that top spot over Lesser back. He falls down into P9. But the more important story is, of course, in and around that cut line, Joe. This time around, it is Julian Cernan that is on the bubble, so to speak, with Malgard narrowly missing out by a handful of points at the moment. So, you know, it's going to be a pretty stressful next couple of races for those drivers, sort of maybe from P10 down to sort of P20.
Exactly. Those are the ones that really need to take risks, essentially, to try and get those higher positions, especially the 16th on down, because if they do nothing, if they risk nothing, then essentially they're just hoping that something will fall into their lap. You have to take things into your own hands from here.
Well, here we go then. We've got ourselves a little bit of a recap of those points, but for the next event, we will be heading to Austria. We'll be heading to the Red Bull Ring in just 1 week's time here, Jake. An absolutely fantastic circuit, no matter what category of cars decide to put Red Bull Ring on their calendar. It seems to deliver some fantastic races. I'm expecting nothing different here from the Contender Series.
And it's going to be a really interesting layout as well as they go out and race under the guise of the prancing bull that is very much there. It's going to be a layout of the National, which means that it's going to be very much about placement. It's going to be about effectively waiting 1 lap, 2 laps to put a driver in front of you in the right position to make that move. And crucially, keep an eye on left-hand side tyres, because it is going to be 5 right-hand corners and 1 left-hand corner only. It's going to be a really interesting circuit, a really different circuit, and a really tough one for these drivers to get correct, which makes it 3 tracks out of 3.
Indeed it does, and perhaps quite interesting to try and set up the cars for as well. There's the Cover Esports car of Tuomas Tattila that took the race win in the main race here today at Silverstone. Well, Christopher Dambeat's got himself the race win in the sprint race as well. Fantastic stuff from both of those drivers, but that is all that we're going to have time for here in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Supercup Contender Series. But you don't have to wait long. 1 week's time, we head to the Red Bull Ring. Good night.